Thank you, Prateep, for having me here in this symposium. Uh, I think things have really changed quite a bit. There was a time when we used to say, oh, pressure, that is the most important thing for glaucoma. And if you still ask people who have done their MBS long time back, they'll say, bhai, glaucoma is if pressure is more than 21. The funny part is that now pressure is not a part of the definition of glaucoma by and large. So we have come a long way. It is essentially an optic neuropathy with classical field and disc changes as Devin has already shown you. And again, one mistake that we keep making even till today is the fact that we keep looking for a number. So if we have a pressure of 30, people will jump. They will start mannitol, Diamox. I have seen people really get really harried at a pressure of 30. But if you really think, if the pressure for an optic nerve is normal pressure is 12 for an optic nerve, if that patient has 18 pressure, you don't show any reaction whatsoever, though it's still 50% more than what it should be. Whereas if it is 30 and the pressure, normal pressure for that is maybe 24, we are jumping up and down all the time. So we must understand that each optic nerve has a pressure for which it is viable. And that number may be anything, and that is why the concept of normal tension glaucoma. There are nerves who cannot even take a pressure of 14 or 12, and they keep deteriorating at that as well. So please don't go on numbers. Be very careful about this part. We all know that age, exercise, position, hormones, they all tend to affect the pressures. And the only very fact that we know is that yes, the high pressures will damage the optic nerve, they increase the risk of glaucoma, and whatever we may say about it, though it is not in the definition, the only thing that we can control is the intraocular pressure. And as the AGES studies has shown that if we continuously, even in advanced cases, if we do keep our pressures low all the times, then definitely the chances of progression are far reduced. So this is the only thing in our hands to control. And that is even in cases of normal tension glaucoma, in which a lot of patients are actually not pressure sensitive, but still, by and large, by lowering the pressure by more than around 30%, we can get a reasonably stable situation. Same goes with ocular hypertension. Again, if you lower the pressure by 20%, the ocular hypertension treatment study showed us that yes, the progression can be reduced. And how low should we keep our pressures, or how much should be the target pressure, though there are a number of quite elaborate plans and studies, but these are very complicated. It takes a whole day for somebody to do that. So roughly, if you have a very mild defect and a moderate kind of disc damage, one can go with a target pressure of less than 20. If it is a moderate damage, one would probably keep a target pressure of 14 to 16. If it is advanced damage or it's a one-eyed patient with moderate damage, one would probably like to keep a pressure below 14, and now they say below 12 and as low as possible. But one very important thing is never take IOP in isolation. I have seen n number of patients, one pressure is high, the patient is started glucomol for 10 years, nobody has ever looked back. So please, even the youngsters, please remember your pen is very powerful. So many times nobody has the time to look into the OPDs, what is happening, and they will just say, okay, pressure is normal, continue treatment. So it is not that you are condemning a patient for life financially, socially, medically and physically. So please be very careful. Your pen is very powerful. Before you write down glaucoma, please, you have to do a visual fields. You have to do more than one pressures. Look at the overall picture and then make your diagnosis. And please, for God's sake, never ever depend on non-contact tonometry to make any critical decision whatsoever. It can really go haywire. So please, you have to take your application pressures, which are the most reliable to date. Should we do a diurnal variation in all cases? We have a number of studies have now shown us this, yes, that if there's a variation of more than 6 to 8 millimeters, the chances of progression are much higher in these people than if you keep it less. And why should we? I normally, most of the glaucoma specialists do love to do a diurnal variation even before you start treatment. And a lot of people tell me, sir, हमारे पास तो time नहीं है office में, हम थोड़ा सा time के लिए patient आता है. How do we do? We can't admit the patient. There are so many problems. So what, at least in 3-4 situations, you have to do a diurnal variation. That means you have to do pressures a number of times a day. And this would include ocular hypertension, because if the peak of ocular hypertension is say about 28 or 30 at any point of time, irrespective of anything else, you are going to treat that patient. Okay, so you really need to know where and then you will also know where your peaks are lying. So you can adjust your medications according to those peaks. So please always do a diurnal variation before you even start medication. Again, in cases of normal tension glaucoma, as we know that normal tension glaucoma would mean that probably we'll be looking at, we might have to do a 24-hour BP recording, we may have to do a CT scan or an MRI to rule out a pituitary tumor and things like that. So if you do a diurnal variation, suddenly you realize that, all right, one of the peaks is going to 24. So we are only dealing with an open angle glaucoma. It is not an NTG at all. So again, in that situation, it is important to do a diurnal variation. Also, in cases where everything looks okay, you have put the patient on treatment, things are all right, he is looking compliant, but despite everything being normal and office pressure being normal, the fields are deteriorating. So if the patient is still going down the tubes, it is best that we do a diurnal variation to figure out what exactly is going on. Normally the Indians have morning peaks, but there could be peaks at any point of time. You could do a full diurnal variation if you have the facility for that. And if you do at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., 40% missed peaks are there. If you do around 7 to 7, you still miss 20% of the peaks. How flat is okay is something very debatable. Initially, as Rani said, less than 8. People are now, and especially the drug companies, want to push it down to 3. But I think something in between is pretty okay. A triggerfish contact lens has opened new vistas where we can put in a contact lens with sensors, and the patient moves around with this for 24 hours and you get a graph like this, though it is not exactly telling you the pressures. It is the stretching of the cornea which is being recorded, but it does give you an idea if you take the initial and the final pressures at the time of this, and you can get some clue to what kind of peaks are occurring even when the patient is asleep, which is in no other way possible today. So what is important is that it is not only important to have a low pressure, it is important to have a low target IOP fluctuation as well. So you have a target IOP and you have a target IOP fluctuation. We'll say that, all right, we want to keep it less than 4 or 5 or something like that. The central corneal thickness, another very interesting thing. All the time we have been teaching you that yes, corneal thickness is important. Thinner the corneas, you must remember OAG has normal, ocular hypertension has thicker corneas, and TG has thinner corneas. Less than 555 had 3-fold chance of progression. So thinner the corneas, more the chances of progression. Thinner the corneas, worse the prognosis overall. They are not detected well in time also. So they are actually, when you detect a thinner cornea, you have to be more alert, more aggressive in your treatment. And but as far as the thicker corneas are concerned, my concept has changed quite a bit, and that was because of this one case that we had. There are a couple of cases like that, but just a marker case. One-eyed patient, 24 millimeters pressure, 620 micron thickness, OCT is normal, field is normal, and I said, all right, let us continue, nothing is going to happen. And 1 year down the line, without treatment, you see there is a defect which is occurring, the field is still normal. And then I realized that their OCT is again gone abnormal within that period without medications. And then I came across a Parkes paper in 2012 ophthalmology, which clearly told us that thicker the corneas, you will be lulled into sense of insecurity, which you should not. So please, thicker corneas, don't get to say that, all right, we'll not treat it because it is. Be very, very careful and be very alert. Don't get bogged down with the fact that thicker the corneas, you can just subtract and get away with it. Corneal hysteresis is a new concept. The time is getting over, so I'll just skip over it. Nothing really great, but yes, we know that corneal thickness is not the thing. It is the corneal bending force, hydration, thickness, rigidity, so many other biomechanical factors which are acting. And the dynamic control tonometer came as a panacea for us, but somehow or the other it is not caught on because of the cost and other factors. But maybe later this may prove to be one which will be giving us more accurate measurement as compared to the applanation tonometer. It has been checked on eye bank and is supposed to be better than the rest, but somehow the other it is not caught on. But I do want to repudiate the fact that indentation tonometer, and I have asked a whole lot of people, I think still 60 to 80% of our country runs on indentation tonometer. So don't be afraid, don't be scared, and don't think that if you are using, you are completely outdated. Yes, definitely you should shift to Goldmann applanation if you have. But if you are having this, don't worry, don't think that if there is nothing there with you, at least this will serve the purpose, though there are a number of disadvantages, we know that. So if you know about them, it's fine. Please remember, measuring intraocular pressure is an art. More than science, it's an art. I have seen hundreds of times now patients refer to me, a small child, all these kids, they will squeeze their eyes and the pressure is 50 and everybody is running around, oh, what has happened? He has got glaucoma. And if you just relax the patient and do it repeatedly and nicely and very gently, you will come to know that the thing is normal. Again, I had a patient of thyroid ophthalmopathy who had who was recorded a number of places extremely high pressure. The discs were plus minus and he was being treated with 4 medications. The only thing was he was fixed in down gaze. So they were sitting on the slit lamp, they are telling him to move up and the whole globe is retracting and the pressure is getting so high. You do a applanation tonometer with a Perkins in his routine gaze and the pressure is absolutely normal. So please remember, taking pressure is an art more than science. So remember please, numbers are not important. It is the only thing we can control. Setting target IOP is important. Diurnal variation is important. Target of diurnal variation plus how much should be the variation is important. CCT, be very careful not to undertreat the thicker corneas, and that will really stand you in good state. Thank you very much.